When they cried Hosanna, it was a cry of salvation, and it was a cry of lordship, and there was a third thing that it was a cry of. It was a cry of praise. A cry of praise. And I want you to understand something. Anyone here who's ever struggled with becoming audible or expressive in any way when it comes to praise and worship. The cries of true praise come from the exact same place that the true cries of salvation come from. It is unrealistic to think that any human being can truly come to a place of crying out for the salvation of God. Really crying, I need you to save me. I need you to be my Lord. If you come to that place, that will be the same place that now the cries of praise emanate from. This is a very unusual word. It's the only word we know of in probably any language that can mean two things that would seem to be so different. It can mean come and save us, or save us now that you're here. And in this culture, it became one of the most common expressions then of praise. And on no level for them compared to how it should be for us. Because this was before He did save them. We're AD. We're after He saved us. It's a cry of salvation. It's a cry of lordship. It's a cry of praise. You show me someone that truly understands that God saved them, and I'll show you a worshiper. You show me someone that's been to church maybe for many, many years and sits on the chair like a knot on a log with no emotion, no expression whatsoever, and I'll show you someone that still has not come to the point that they believe in God and they love the Lord on levels. They have not come to a place where they truly have had to desperately cry out. Not just for God to fix what's broken in their life, but cry out for salvation and lordship. Let me show you the most powerful picture of this in the Bible. Now, one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him. Pharisees are religious church folks. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. And when a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. And as she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. And when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. And Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 men owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? And Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled. You've judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water from my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little. Your praise, your worship, your expression to God, yes, your physical expression to God will be linked directly to how you saw His salvation in your life. You show me a person that understands how lost they were, and Jesus redeemed their life and has now became their Lord and given them purpose, given them life. And I'll show you a person you can't hold back in a worship service. I'll show you someone like David, who the youngest son of a nobody family, of the weakest clan, who's been promoted by God to a place of kingship. Having the ark of God, the presence and promises of God restored back to his city. A man who understands, evidently God has forgiven his nation much, for he has restored the ark. He has allowed them to bring back the promises and the presence of God. And David stripped off his clothes, because that's what you do when you honor somebody in that culture. You pull off your clothes and you lay them before him. He stripped himself bare as a statement of saying, who am I before you? And he began to dance before the Lord with all his might. Why? Why would someone of such high stature do something like that? Because he understood the salvation of God. He understood the lordship of God. And for a man or a woman who understands what God has done in their life, what he's been delivered from, she's been delivered from, I'll show you someone that doesn't have to really have their arm twisted all that much to express a little bit of love to God in a worship service.